this is a video about how to do annotations. Annotations are really important because they help you to focus in on what a reading is about, the most important parts. They help you to engage with it. They help you to personally connect to it. They help you to remember what you're reading, because we've all had that moment where, we're distracted, we're thinking about other things, and we read something, but then we're like, I have no idea what I just read, right? So in order to try to alleviate that, which is kind of a waste of time because now you got to reread it, right? If we highlight in on certain things, it'll help us to focus. And so that's what I'm going to have you do for these first few readings in this section, all of which are going to be personal narratives, which are essentially more creative. They're kind of like creative writing, like creative nonfiction, and they're also, each of them are different styles. This first one we're reading, you can probably tell by the title, Shitty First Drafts, is that she's more of a comedic writer, much more casual, much more like something you would read in a magazine. So I want you to see different styles because you're going to be responding to these different styles, and just kind of see what you think about these different takes on these readings. So okay, so first thing, this is the handout that you'll see. I do want you to highlight all these things. I'll show you how to do that here, but the different colors will just help me to see that you're getting each of these things down. So the first thing that I do in any reading piece is I look at the title. That gives me some clue as to what the thesis or the main argument's about. And it says Shitty First Drafts, so I know, okay, this is what this person is going to be writing about. This first italicized part is just about this author. But now we're going to come down to this first paragraph, and we're going to look for what is the main argument here. Normally, here it says, highlighted in yellow, the central claim or argument of the essay. It's often, although not always, the last sentence of the introductory paragraph. That's true in a standard essay, but in personal narratives, it can be anywhere in the first paragraph. So we'll see if we can figure it out here. All right, so this says, now practically even better news than that of short assignments is the idea of shitty first drafts. All good writers write them. This is how they end up with good second drafts and terrific third drafts. People tend to look at successful writers who are getting their books published and maybe even doing well financially and think that they sit down at their desks every morning feeling like $1 million, feeling great about who they are and how much talent they have and what a great story they had to tell. That they take in a few deep breaths, push back their sleeves, roll their necks a few times to get all the cricks out, and dive in, typing fully formed passages as fast as a court reporter. But this is just the fantasy of the uninitiated. I know some very great writers you love, who write beautifully and have made a great deal of money, and not one of them sits down routinely feeling wildly enthusiastic and confident. Not one of them writes elegant first drafts. All right, one of them does, but we don't like her very much. We do not think that she has a rich inner life or that God likes her or even can stand her. Although when I mentioned this to my priest friend Tom, he said you can safely assume you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do. All right, so she's making some comedic little asides down there at the end. So if we look at this and we look at the title and we say, okay, she's writing about shitty first drafts. So where does she talk about that? And so what I would say is it's in these first 3 sentences. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to highlight this in yellow. So I'm going to go right up here and change this to yellow. And that's going to highlight that in yellow, which is what the handout is asking for. That's what I think that the thesis is here. And I also want you to see that a thesis can, we usually think of it as one sentence, but it can be 2 or 3, especially in personal narratives where now they're a little bit more open, a little bit more creative. But here she's talking about the shitty first drafts formula, essentially. Now, practically even better news than that of short assignments is the idea of shitty first drafts. All good writers write them. This is how they end up with good second drafts and terrific third drafts. So that's our first thing. Next thing, I want you to highlight in green all topic sentences. The topic sentence is usually, but not always, the first sentence of a paragraph. It's the general statement that controls the details and examples in the paragraph. Highlighting them helps provide a rough outline of the work. So in this case, I do want you to just highlight all of the first lines. Essentially, the first sentence is your topic sentence. So we're going to do this, and again, we're going to expand this out just a bit. And we're going to take, nope, not yellow. We're going to do green here. Okay, so, and then just do that for each one. So we're just going to go through first sentence of each paragraph. You don't have to try to find the topic sentence. I just want you to do the first line of every paragraph, every body paragraph. Just like that. And just keep doing that all the way through. Okay, so just all the way down. The reason I want you to do that is because I want you to see how writers are cueing the reader as to what the paragraph is going to be about. So this says very few writers really know what they are doing until they've done it. So now she's going to talk about how writing works, right? Like how writers do what they do, and the fact that they don't know what they're doing until they start, right? They just have to start writing before they know what they're doing, but they don't know up front. So that's what this whole paragraph is going to be about. So let's look and see if that's true. So it says, nor do they go about their business feeling dewy-eyed and thrilled. They do not type a few stiff warm-up sentences and then find themselves bounding along like huskies across the snow. One writer I know tells me he sits down every morning and says to himself nicely, it's not like you don't have a choice because you do. You can either type or kill yourself. So she's making it kind of a joke there. We all often feel like we're pulling teeth, even those writers whose prose ends up being the most natural and fluid. The right words and sentences just do not come pouring out like a ticker tape most of the time. Now, Muriel Spark is said to have felt that she was taking dictation from God every morning, sitting there, one supposes, plugged into a dictaphone, typing away humming. But this is a very hostile and aggressive position. One might hope for bad things to rain down on a person like this. So, you can see here it's just this perception that writers know what they're doing when they sit down, but it's just not true. So that's what this is about, and that's what the topic sentence is telling us. Here, this is a really short paragraph, and this is another thing that can happen in a personal narrative, but they still have a topic sentence. For me and most of the other writers I know, writing is not rapturous. And then she goes on to kind of clarify that. In fact, the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really shitty first drafts. So that's just kind of furthering what she's talking about there. So I just want you to see that. So going all the way through each of the body paragraphs, just highlighting the first sentence, and then taking a look at how the writer cues the reader with that topic sentence. Next, highlight in blue at least 3 transitional words and phrases that tell you whether the writer will change direction or offer support for a previous point. Words and phrases like however, but, nevertheless, yet, moreover, and so on. So here we're just looking for those transition words. We can see but right here, so let's go ahead and just highlight that. There we go. And let's see how this goes. So here she's talking about the perception that people have of how writers are. People tend to look at successful writers who are getting their books published and maybe even doing well financially and think that they sit down at their desk every morning feeling like $1 million, feeling great about who they are and how much talent they have and what a great story they have to tell, that they take in a few deep breaths, push back their sleeves, roll their necks a few times to get all the pricks out, and dive in, typing fully formed passages as fast as a court reporter. So right there, they're basically introducing the misconception, what people think, and it's not true. So because it's not true, they say, but now we're going to flip that and say, here's the reality. This is just the fantasy of the uninitiated. So she's basically saying that's not true. This is a misconception. It's not true. So that but kind of helps us flip, and now we're going to go to something, a different idea. Let's keep looking down here. Let's see if we can find another one. Right here is another but. So it says, now, Muriel Spark is said to have felt that she was taking dictation from God every morning, sitting there, one supposes, plugged into a dictaphone, typing away, humming, but this is a very hostile and aggressive position. So Muriel says this, and then this writer is like, no, that's the wrong position, right? So this but, again, gets us to flip and think in a different way. In here, you can also say, in fact, that would be another way to transition. So here she says, for me and most of the other writers I know, writing is not rapturous. Now she's going to expand on that and say a little bit more. In fact, the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really shitty first drafts. So that's 3. You only have to do 3, and that's what I'm looking for, just so you can kind of see how the writer is connecting sentences in some way. Next thing says, highlight in pink unfamiliar words, then look up the meanings after reading the whole piece and put the definitions in the margin. So here's how we're going to do that. We're looking up unfamiliar words. Here's one because it's kind of an unusual word. Dictaphone. This is an old school thing. So you're going to go up to insert and you're going to say comment, and it's going to pop up over here. And then you're just going to look up the definition and you're going to put it here. So we're going to say this means, and then you're just going to give me the definition there, and then make sure to hit this little arrow here, and then that will post your comment. Let's see. Let's look for another one in here. Let's see. Yeah, and I'm only going to have you do 2, so I'll put that in here. Unfamiliar, 2 words, and so that's fine. So you just look up. There's one. You're going to do one more, and just go through, and that'll be fine. All right, and then last, highlight in light gray 2 key passages and then add a comment about why you like them. Marking passages in color is meant to direct you to the major ideas and reduce the necessity for rereading the whole passage when you review. So let's look again. Here are some things that I think are really relatable. Right here. this is the first one that I think is relatable. It says, even after I'd been doing this for years, panic would set in. I'd try to write a lead, but instead I'd write a couple of dreadful sentences, X them out, try again, X everything out, and then feel despair and worry settle on my chest like an X-ray apron. It's over, I'd think calmly. I'm not going to be able to get the magic to work this time. I'm ruined. I'm through. I'm toast. Maybe I'd think I could get my old job back as a clerk typist, but probably not. So in this one, where you're highlighting key passages, it's just whatever you think is a key passage. So this is something that I can relate to, which is just that initial panic that sometimes sets in when we first start a new writing project. So I'm going to comment here, and I'm going to say, I can relate to this because I always panic when starting a new writing assignment. And then just make sure to hit that little thing, and there we go. So you're going to do that for 2 different ones, so 2 key passages, and then that's how you're going to go. So you're going to have your thesis in yellow, your connecting words in blue, all of the topic sentences highlighted in green. You're going to look up 2 unfamiliar words and add in their definitions. And then you're going to look up 2 key passages that you personally relate to and add a comment about why you relate to them. Then you're just going to go up to File, Save As, and save it. So Annotations into your desktop. Make sure it's just a Word doc so that I can see your comments, not a PDF in this case. And that's it. That's the Annotations. So that's what you're going to do for each of these opening readings. And that's how you get your points. Thanks, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.